Testing 1, 2, 3. Good evening. Welcome. How are we this evening? I never do this. I never talk to you with a black screen on. That's weird. Ha! Ha! Anyhow, we're just about ready to start the show. And I just wanted to come on and say Happy Halloween. Gosh, that's fun. That's so fun. Cooking a pot roast. And man, it's driving me crazy. I'm starving. I guess it's time we start the show. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Happy Halloween. Good evening and welcome to Elsinore Brothers Studio Halloween Special. I am your host, Michael, the crazy old weird bearded guy, and this is an it's unceremonious here, and it's one of those shows where we're just winging it. We're just winging it. I decided that I'm going to read from the Encyclopedia Americana from 1980 something. And I am going to read the Happy Halloween. I'm going to read the encyclopedic definition of Halloween. Halloween, a festival of Scottish-Irish origin held on All Hallows' Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the custom connected with Halloween can be traced back to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god for the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into a Christian ritual. In the 19th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead, particularly those who had died in the preceding year. In Europe, during medieval times and later, elves, fairies, and witches, who occasionally took the shape of cats, were believed to fly on All Hallows' Eve, and bonfires were lit to ward off these spirits. Vestiges of these beliefs and practices persisted in Scotland and Ireland into recent times. Halloween was also a time for games and rituals involving methods of foretelling the future. Through such omens as apple parings thrown over the shoulder or nuts burned in the fire, young people tried to determine their marital prospects. Halloween traditions were taken by the Scots and Irish to America, where the pumpkin replaced the turnip for a carved jack-o'-lantern. A turnip, huh? In the late 19th century, the Irish believed that the little people, or fairies, played pranks on Halloween, led boys and young men to carry out practical jokes on that night. For example, putting a buggy on a roof or overturning a small building. In the 20th century, a less distinctive practice became customary. Children dress up in the costumes and go from door to door to trick or treat. They collect candy or pennies. Inhospitable or absent householders may be punished by tricks, customarily mild but sometimes destructive. This was taken from Elizabeth Bacon at the Michigan State University, and once again comes from us from the Encyclopedia Americana. I have another book here that I am going to read a portion of. I am going to have to find the said portion. Page 330. Really? Yeah, that's a long book. Gosh. All right, and the story that I have chosen is Hansel and Gretel. Why? Because there's a witch, there's kids, there's candy, there's all kinds of mischief. People die. It's great. All right, so here we go. Without further ado, we are going to get started with this so we can move on with tonight's Halloween special. Hansel and Gretel from Grimm's Fairy Tales, an original story from the Brothers Grimm. Close to a large forest, there lived a woodcutter with his wife and two children.
The boy was called Hansel and the girl Gretel. They were always very poor and had very little to live on. And at one time, when there was a famine in the land, he could no longer procure daily bread. One night, when he lay in bed worrying over his troubles, he sighed and said to his wife, "What is to become of us? How are we to feed our poor children when we have nothing for ourselves?" "I'll tell you what, husband," answered the woman. "Tomorrow morning we'll take the children out quite early into the thickest part of the forest. We'll light a fire and give each of them a piece of bread. Then we'll go to our work and leave them alone. They won't be able to find their way back, and so we shall be rid of them." "Nay, wife," said the man, "we don't want to do that. I could never find in my heart to leave my children alone in the forest. Wild animals would soon tear them to pieces." "What a fool you are," she said. "Then we must all four die of hunger. You may as well plane the boards for our coffins at once." She gave him no peace till he consented. "But I grieve over the poor children all the same," said the man. The two children could not go to sleep for hunger either, and they heard what their stepmother said to their father. Gretel wept bitterly and said, "All is over with us now." "Be quiet, Gretel," said Hansel. "Don't cry. I will find some way of it. I will find some way out of it." When the old people had gone to sleep, he got up, put on his little coat, opened the door, and slipped out. The moon was shining brightly, and the white pebbles around the house shone like newly mined coins. Hansel stooped down and put as many into his pocket as he could hold. Then he went back to Gretel and said, "Take comfort, little sister, and go to sleep. God won't forsake us." And then he went to bed again. At daybreak, before the sun had risen, the woman came and said, Get up, you lazy bones. We are going into the forest to fetch wood." Then she gave them each a piece of bread and said, "Here's something for your dinner, but don't eat it before then, or you'll get no more." Gretel put the bread under her apron, for Hansel had the stones in his pocket. Then they all started for the forest. When they had gone a little way, Hansel stopped and looked back at the cottage. Then he did the same thing again and again. His father said, "Hansel, what are you stopping to look back at? Take care and put your best foot foremost." "Oh, father," said Hansel, "I am looking at my white cat. It is sitting on the roof, wanting to say goodbye to me." "Little fool, that's no cat. That's the morning sun shining on the chimney," said mother. But Hansel had not been looking at the cat. He had dropped a petal on the ground each time he stopped. When they reached the middle of the forest, their father said, "Now, children, pick up some wood. I want you to make a fire to warm you." Pardon me. Hansel and Gretel gathered 2 twigs together and soon made a huge pile. Then the pile was lighted, and when it blazed up, the woman said, "Now lie down by the fire and rest yourselves while we go and cut wood. When we have finished, we'll come back to fetch you." Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire, and when dinner time came, they each ate their little bit of bread, and they thought their father was quite near because they could hear the sound of an axe. It was no axe, however, but a branch which the man had tied to a dead tree, and which blew backwards and forwards against it. They sat there so long a time that they got tired. Then their eyes began to close, and then they were soon fast asleep.
Yeah, the old broad probably doped their bread, right?
When they awoke, it was dark night. Gretel began to cry. "How shall we ever find out of the wood? How shall we ever get out of the wood?" But Hansel comforted her and said, "Wait a little while until the moon rises, and then we'll find our way." When there was a full moon rose, Hansel took his little sister's hand, and they walked on, guided by the pebbles which glinted like newly coined money. They walked the whole night, and at daybreak they found themselves back at their father's cottage. They knocked at the door, and when the woman opened it and saw Hansel and Gretel, she said, "You bad children, why did you sleep so long in the wood? We thought you did not mean to come back any more." But their father was delighted, for it had gone to his heart to leave them behind alone. Pardon me. Not long afterward, they were again in the great destitution, right? It's split in half here. Not long after they were in great destitution, and the children heard the woman at night in bed say to their father, "We have eaten up everything again but half a loaf, and then we will be at the end of everything. The children must go away. We will take them farther into the forest so that they won't be able to find their way back. There is nothing else to be done." The man took it much to heart and said, "We had better share our last crust with the children." But the woman would not listen to a word he said. She only scolded and reproached him. Anyone who once says A must also say B, and as father had given in the first time, he had to do the second. Well, there's logic for you. He did it once before, so he's got to do it again. The children were again wide awake and heard what she said. When the old people went to sleep, Hansel again got up, meaning to go out and get some more pebbles, but the woman had locked the door, and he could not get out. But he considered his little sister and said, "Don't cry, Gretel, go to sleep. God will help us." In the early morning the woman made the children get up and give them each a piece of bread, but it was smaller than the last one. On the way to the forest, Hansel crumbled up in his pocket and stopped every now and then and threw a crumb onto the ground. "Hansel, what are you doing? Stop! What are you stopping to look for?" asked his father. "Oh, Hansel, what are you stopping to look for?" Should he say it like this? "Hansel, what are you stopping to look for?" asked his father. "I am looking at my dove, which is sitting on the roof and wants to say goodbye to me," answered Hansel. "I'm not going to do that." "Little fool," said the woman, "this is no dove. This is the morning sun shining on the chimney." Nevertheless, Hansel strewed the crumbs from time to time on the ground. The old woman led the children far into the forest, where they had been before. Oh, where they had never been before. Ooh! Again, they made a big fire, and the woman said, "Stay where you are, children, and when you are tired, you may go to sleep for a while. We are going further on to cut wood, and in the evening, when we have finished, we will come back and fetch you." At dinner time, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, for he had crumbled up his upon the road. Then they went to sleep, and the evening passed, but no one came to fetch the poor children. It was quite dark when they woke up. Hansel cheered his little sister. He said, "Wait a bit, Gretel, till the moon rises, and then we can see the breadcrumbs which I scattered to show us the way home." When the moon rose, they started, but they found no breadcrumbs, for all the thousands of birds in the forest had picked them up and eaten them. Hansel said to Gretel, "We shall soon find the way." But they could not find it. They walked the whole night, and all the next day from morning till night, but they could not get out of the woods. They were very hungry, for they had nothing to eat but a few berries which they found. They were so tired that their little legs would not carry them any further, and they lay down under a tree and went to sleep. When they awoke in the morning, it was the third day since they had left their father's cottage. They started to walk again, but they only got deeper and deeper into the wood, and if no help came, they must perish. Pardon me. At midday they saw a beautiful snow-white bird sitting on a tree. It sang so beautifully, and they stood still to listen to it. When it stopped, it fluttered its wings and flew around them. They followed it till they came to a little cottage, on the roof of which it settled down. When they got quite near, they saw that the little house was made of bread, and the roof with cake. The windows were transparent sugar. Here's something for us," said Hansel. "We will have a good meal. I will have a piece of the roof, Gretel, and you can have a bit of the window. It will be nice and sweet." Hansel reached up and broke off a piece of the roof to see what it tasted like. Gretel went to the window and nibbled at it. A gentle voice called from within, "Nibbling, nibbling, like a mouse. Who's nibbling at my little house?" The children answered, the wind doth blow from heaven and the earth below." And they went on eating without disturbing themselves. Hansel, who found the roof very good, broke off a large piece for himself, and Gretel pushed the whole round pane of the window and out of the window and sat down on the ground to enjoy it. All at once the door opened up, and an old woman, supporting herself on a crutch, came hobbling out. Hansel and Gretel were so frightened that they dropped what they held in their hands. But the old woman only shook her head and said, "Ah, dear children, who brought you here? Come in and stay with me. You will come to no harm." She took them by the hand and led them into her little house. A nice dinner was set before them, pancakes and sugar and milk and apples and nuts. After this she showed them two little white beds. Into which they crept, and they felt as if they were in heaven. Although the old woman appeared to be so friendly, she was really an old wicked witch who was on the watch for children. And she had built the bread house on purpose to lure them here. Whenever she could get a child into her clutches, she cooked them and ate them, and considered it a fragrant feast, a grand feast. Witches have red eyes and can't see very far, but they have keen noses like animals and can scent the approach of human beings. When Hansel and Gretel came near her, she laughed wickedly to herself and said scornfully, "Now that I have them, they shan't escape." She got up early in the morning before the children were awake, and when she saw them sleeping with their beautiful rosy cheeks, she murmured to herself, "They will be a dainty morsels." She seized Hansel with her bony hand and carried him off to a little stable, where she locked him up behind a barred door. He might shriek as loud as he liked. She took notice of him. Then she went to Gretel and shook her till she woke, and cried, "Get up, little lazy bones. Fetch some water and cook something nice for your brother. He is in the stable and has to be fattened. When he is nice and fat, I will eat him." Gretel began to cry bitterly, but it was no use. She had to obey the witch's orders. The best food was cooked for poor Hansel, but Gretel had only shells of crayfish. The old woman hobbled to the stable every morning and cried, "Hansel, put your finger out and out for me to feel how fat you are." Hansel put his knuckle bone out, and the woman, whose eyes were dim to see, thought it was his finger, and she was much astonished that he did not get fat. When 4 weeks had passed and Hansel still kept thin, she became impatient and would wait no longer. "Now then, Gretel," she cried, "bustle along and fetch the water. Fat or thin, I will kill Hansel and eat him." Oh, how his poor little sister grieved. As she carried the water, the tears streamed down her cheeks. "Dear God, help us," she cried. "If only the wild animals in the forest had eaten us, we should at last have died together." "You may spare your lamentations. They will do you no good," said the old woman. Early in the morning, Gretel had to go out to fill the kettle with water, and then she had to kindle a fire, hang the kettle over it. "We will bake first," said the old witch. "I have heated the oven and kneaded the dough." She pushed poor Gretel toward the oven and said, "Creep in and see if it's properly heated, and then we will put in the bread." She meant, when Gretel had gone in, to shut the door and roast her. But Gretel saw her intention and said, "I don't know how to get in. How am I to manage it?" "Stupid goose," cried the witch. "The opening is big enough. You can see that. I could get into it myself." She hobbled up and stuck her head into the oven, but Gretel gave her a push which sent the witch right in, and then she banged the door and bolted it. "Oh no!" The witch began to howl horribly, but Gretel ran away and left the witch to perish miserably. That ding was my roast. I gotta go turn it back on. Right back. Happy Halloween. The plan is pardon my shirt. Didn't mean to blow your eardrums. The plan is to let that roast cook until my wife gets home, and then we're gonna make gravy, and then cook it all up with some gravy. Make some Yankee pot roast. All right, here we are. Knucklebone, perish miserably. Gretel ran as fast as she could to the stable. She opened the door and cried, "Hansel, we are saved. The old witch is dead." Hansel sprang out like a bird out of the cage when the door set open. How delighted they were! They fell upon each other's necks and kissed each other and danced about for joy. As they had nothing more to fear, they went into the witch's house, and in every corner they found chests of pearls and precious stones. "These are better than pebbles," said Hansel. He filled his pockets. There go the dogs. Gretel said, "I must take something home with me, too," and she filled her apron. "But now we must go," said Hansel, "so that we may get out of this enchanted wood." Before they had gone very far, they came to a great piece of water. "We can't get across this," said Hansel. "I see no stepping stones and no bridge." "And there are no boats either," answered Gretel. "But there is a duck swimming. It will help us get over if we ask it." So she cried, "Little duck that cries quack, quack, here Gretel and here Hansel stand. Quickly take us on your back. No path nor bridge is there at hand." The duck came swimming toward them, and Hansel got on his back. and told his sister, "Sit on its knee." "No," answered Gretel, "it will be too heavy for the duck. It must take us over one after the other." The good creature did this, and when they had gotten safely and walked a while, the wood seemed to grow more and more familiar to them, and at last they saw their father's cottage in the distance. They began to run, and rushed inside, where they threw their arms around their father's neck. The man had not had a single happy moment since he deserted his children in the woods, and in the meantime his wife had died. Well, there you go. Boy, the Grimm's brothers, right? Gretel shook her apron and scattered the pearls and precious stones all over the floor, and Hansel added handful after handful out of his own pockets. So all their troubles came to an end, and they lived together as happy as possible. And what does that mean, happy as possible? Could it mean that the kids were like, "Geez, Dad, I don't think we're ever going to get over you dumping us in the woods," right? Happy Halloween. Well, that didn't take quite as long as I thought it was going to take, right? That's great. That's great stuff. What else did I have planned? We have a radio show to listen to. That'll be great. What we're going to listen to is War of the Worlds, right? Mercury Theater on the air with the Orson Welles Players will give us War of the Worlds, right? So let's do that, right? Oh my God, totally. Halloween night. Halloween night. I'm going to open up a file here, and I am going to pull up a graphic to put on the screen. And then I'm going to pull up a radio show, and we're going to listen to an old-time radio show. Old-timey music. All right, there's that. So how's everything going out there? How's everything doing? My daughter has gone off with some friends so that the youngest in the group can go trick-or-treating. Right? There we go. All right. Well, I've got the old-time radio show ready to go. It is War of the Worlds. While you are listening to it here for the next 50 minutes, I am going to be finishing off dinner and joining you while you're listening. In other words, I'll be listening while you'll be listening. All right, people, here we go. Let's go from 1938, October 30th. Here is War of the Worlds. Right.
Present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
All right. I'll see you in a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the director of the Mercury Theater and star of these broadcasts, Orson Welles.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In the 39th year of the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment. It was near the end of October. Business was better. The war scare was over. More men were back at work. Sales were picking up. On this particular evening, October 30th, the Crosley service estimated that 32 million people were listening in on radios.
Next 24 hours, not much change in temperature. A slight atmospheric disturbance of undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low-pressure area to move down rather rapidly over the northeastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by wind of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66, minimum 48. This weather report comes to you from the Government Weather Bureau. We take you now to the Meridian Room in the Hotel Park Plaza in downtown New York, where you will be entertained by the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From the Meridian Room in the Park Plaza Hotel in New York City, we bring you the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra. With a touch of the Spanish, Raymond Raquello leads off with La Comparsita.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving toward the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun, unquote. We now return you to the music of Raymond Raquello, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
And now a tune that never loses favor, the ever-popular Stardust, Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
Ladies and gentlemen, following on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago, the Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with a noted astronomer, Professor Pearson, who will give us his views on this event. In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you until then to the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra. We are ready now to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where Carl Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pearson, famous astronomer. We take you now to Princeton, New Jersey.
Carl Phillips speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton. I'm standing in a large semicircular room, pitch black except for an oblong split in the ceiling. Through this opening, I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast a kind of frosty glow over the intricate mechanism of the huge telescope. The ticking sound you hear is the vibration of the clockwork. Professor Pearson stands directly above me on a small platform, peering through the giant lens. I ask you to be patient, ladies and gentlemen, during any delay that may arise during our interview. Besides the ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pearson may be interrupted by telephone or other communications. During this period, he is in constant touch with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, may I begin our questions?
At any time, Mr. Phillips.
Professor, would you please tell our radio audience exactly what you see as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Nothing unusual at the moment, Mr. Phillips. A red disk swimming in a blue sea. Transverse stripes across the disk. Quite distinct now because Mars happens to be at the point nearest the Earth, in opposition, as we call it.
In your opinion, what do these transverse stripes signify, Professor?
Not canals, I can assure you, Mr. Phillips. Although that's the popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited. From a scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Then you're quite convinced, as a scientist, that living intelligence as we know it does not exist on Mars?
I'd say the chances against it are 1,000 to 1.
And yet, how do you account for these gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet at regular intervals?
Phillips, I cannot account for it.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from the Earth?
Approximately 40 million miles.
Well, that seems a safe enough distance. Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Someone has just handed Professor Pearson a message. While he reads it, let me remind you that we are speaking to you from the observatory in Princeton, New Jersey, where we are interviewing the world-famous astronomer, Professor Pearson. One moment, please. Professor Pearson has passed me a message which he has just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience?
Certainly, Mr. Phillips.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall read you a wire addressed to Professor Pearson from Dr. Gray of the Natural History Museum, New York. Quote, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Seismograph registered shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division. Unquote. Professor Pearson, could this occurrence possibly have something to do with the disturbances observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly, Mr. Phillips. This is probably a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as daylight permits.
Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes, we've been speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton, bringing you a special interview with Professor Pearson, noted astronomer. This is Carl Phillips speaking. We are returning you now to our New York studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. Toronto, Canada. Professor Morse of Macmillan University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, nearer home, comes a special bulletin from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene, and we'll have our commentator, Carl Phillips, give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music. We take you now to Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips again, out at the Wilmot Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself made the 11 miles from Princeton in 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin. Paint for you a word picture of a strange scene before my eyes, like something out of a modern Arabian Night. Well, I just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around yet. I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing directly in front of me, half buried in a vast pit. Must have struck with terrific force. The ground is covered with splinters of a tree. It must have struck on its way down. But I can see the object itself doesn't look very much like a meteor. At least not the meteors I've seen. It looks more like a huge cylinder. Has a diameter of, what would you say, Professor Pearson?
What's that?
What would you say, what's the diameter of this?
About 30 yards.
About 30 yards. The metal on the sheath is, well, I've never seen anything like it. The color is sort of yellowish white. It's curious spectators now are pressing close to the object in spite of the efforts of the police to keep them back. Getting in front of my line. Would you mind standing one side, please? While the police pushing the crowd back. Here's Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm here. He may have some interesting facts to add. Mr. Wilmot, would you please tell the radio audience as much as you remember of this rather unusual visitor that dropped in your backyard? Step closer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Wilmot.
Well, I was listening to the radio.
Closer and louder, please.
Pardon me?
Louder, please, closer.
Yes. I was listening to the radio and kind of drowsy. That professor fellow was talking about Mars, so I was half chosen and half...
Yes, Mr. Wilmot, and then what happened?
Well, as I was saying, I was listening to the radio, kind of halfway.
Yes, Mr. Wilmot, and then you saw something.
Well, not first off. I heard something.
And what did you hear?
A hissing sound like this. Kind of like a 4th of July rocket.
Yes, then what?
I turned my head out the window and would have sworn I was asleep and dreaming.
Yes?
I seen a kind of greenish streak and then zingo. Something smacked the ground, knocked me clear out of my chair.
Well, were you frightened, Mr. Wilmot?
Well, I ain't quite sure. I reckon I was kind of riled.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilmot. Thank you very much.
You want me to tell
No, that's quite all right. That's plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard Mr. Wilmot, owner of the farm where this thing has fallen. I wish I could convey the atmosphere, the background of this fantastic scene. Hundreds of cars are parked in a field in back of us, and the police are trying to rope off the roadway leading into the farm, but it's no use. They're breaking right through. Cars' headlights throw an enormous spotlight on the pit where the object's half buried. Now, some of the more daring souls now are venturing near the edge. They're silhouettes stand out against the metal sheen. One man wants to touch the thing. He's having an argument with the policeman. The policeman wins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned in all this excitement, but it's becoming more distinct. Perhaps you've caught it already on your radio. Listen, please. Do you hear it? The curious humming sound that seems to come from inside the object. I'll move the microphone nearer. Here. Now, we're not more than 25 feet away. Can you hear it now? Professor Pearson?
Yes, of course.
Can you tell us the meaning of that scraping noise inside the thing?
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial. Not found on this Earth. Friction with the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in a meteorite. This thing is smooth, and you can see its cylindrical
Just a minute.
shape.
Something's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is beginning to rotate like a screw, and this thing must be hollow.
He's moving. Keep back. Keep those men back. Keep back. Keep those idiots back. He's off. The top flew. Go, Dad. Stand back.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Wait a minute. Something I can see coming out of that black hole through luminous discs. The eyes, it might be a face, might be almost... Good heavens, something wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Now it's another one, and another one, and another one. They look like tentacles to me. I can see the thing's body now. It's large as a bear. It glistens like wet leather. But that face, ladies and gentlemen, it's indescribable. I can hardly force myself to keep looking at it. It's so awful. The eyes are black, and they gleam like a serpent. The mouth is kind of V-shaped with saliva dripping from its rimless lips. It seems to quiver and pulsate. And the monster, or whatever it is, can hardly move. It seems weighed down by possibly gravity or something. The thing's rising up now, and the crowd falls back. They see plenty. The most extraordinary experience, ladies and gentlemen. I can't find words. Well, I'll pull this microphone with me as I talk. I'll have to stop the description until I can take a new position. Hold on, will you please? I'll be right back in a minute.
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening on the Wilmuth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. We now return you to Carl Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmot's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. There's more state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain is conferring with someone. Can't quite see who. Oh, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. Those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. Humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. The whole field caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles, spreading everywhere. Coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California. Professor Indelkoffer, speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We continue now with our piano interlude.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been handed a message that came in from Grover's Mill by telephone. Just one moment, please. At least 40 people, including 6 state troopers, lie dead in a field east of the village of Grover's Mill. Their bodies burned and distorted beyond all possible recognition. The next voice you hear will be that of Brigadier General Montgomery Smith, commander of the state militia at Trenton, New Jersey.
I have been requested by the governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex as far west as Princeton and east to Jamesburg under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special pass issued by state or military authorities. 4 companies of state militia are proceeding from Trenton to Grover's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of homes within the range of military operations. Thank you.
You have just been listening to General Montgomery Smith, commanding the state militia at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Grover's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures, after unleashing their deadly assault, crawled back in their pit and made no attempt to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire. The combined fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which menace the entire countryside. We have been unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Grover's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, we take you to... Just one moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed that we have finally established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pearson has been located at a farmhouse near Grover's Mill, where he has established an emergency observation post. As a scientist, he will give you his explanation of the calamity. The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by direct wire. Professor Pearson.
Of the creatures in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give you no authoritative information, either as to their nature, their origin, or their purposes here on Earth. Of their destructive instrument, I might venture some conjectural explanation. For want of a better term, I shall refer to the mysterious weapon as a heat ray. It's all too evident that these creatures have scientific knowledge far in advance of our own. It's my guess that in some way they are able to generate an intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute non-conductivity. This intense heat they project in a parallel beam against any object they choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition, much as the mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light. That is my conjecture of the origin of the heat ray.
Thank you, Professor Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a bulletin from Trenton. It is a brief statement informing us that the charred body of Carl Phillips has been identified in the Trenton Hospital. Now here's another bulletin from Washington, D.C. The Office of the Director of the National Red Cross reports 10 units of Red Cross emergency workers have been assigned to the headquarters of the state militia, stationed outside of Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Here's a bulletin from State Police, Princeton Junction. The fires at Grover's Mill and vicinity are now under control. Scouts report all quiet in the pit, and there is no sign of life appearing from the mouth of the cylinder. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special statement from Mr. Harry McDonald, Vice President in charge of operations.
We have received a request from the state militia of Trenton to place at their disposal our entire broadcasting facilities. In view of the gravity of the situation, and believing that radio has a responsibility to serve in the public interest at all times, we are turning over our facilities to the state militia at Trenton.
We take you now to the field headquarters of the state militia near Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
This is Captain Lansing of the Signal Corps, attached to the state militia, now engaged in military operations in the vicinity of Grover's Mill. Situation arising from the reported presence of certain individuals of unidentified nature is now under complete control. The cylindrical object, which lies in a pit directly below our position, surrounded on all sides by 8 battalions of infantry, without heavy field pieces, but adequately armed with rifles and machine guns. All cause for alarm, if such cause ever existed, is now entirely unjustified. Things, whatever they are, do not even venture to poke their heads above the pit. I can see their hiding place plainly in the glare of the searchlights here. With all their reported resources, these creatures can scarcely stand up against heavy machine gun fire. Anyway, it's an interesting outing for the troops. I can make out their khaki uniforms crossing back and forth in front of the lights. Looks almost like a real war. There appears to be some slight smoke in the woods bordering the Millstone River. Probably fire started by campers. Well, we ought to see some action soon. One of the companies is deploying on the left flank. A quick thrust and it'll all be over. Oh, wait a minute. I see something on top of the cylinder. No, it's nothing but a shadow. Now the troops are on the edge of the Wilmot Farm. 7,000 armed men closing in on an old metal tube. A tub, rather. Well, wait, that wasn't a shadow. It's something moving. Solid metal, kind of a shield-like affair rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. What? It's standing on legs, actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars. The battle which took place tonight at Grover Mills has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by an army in modern times. 7,000 men armed with rifles and machine guns pitted against a single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors. The rest strewn over the battle area from Grover's Mill to Plainsboro, crushed and trampled to death under the metal feet of the monster, or burned to cinders by its heat ray. The monster is now in control of the middle section of New Jersey and has effectively cut the state through its center. Communication lines are down from Pennsylvania to the Atlantic Ocean. Railroad tracks are torn and service from New York to Philadelphia discontinued, except routing some of the trains through Allerton and Phoenixville. Highways to the north, south, and west are clogged with frantic human traffic. Police and army reserves are unable to control the mad flight. By morning, the fugitives will have swelled Philadelphia, Camden, and Trenton. It is estimated to twice their normal population. Martial law prevails throughout New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. At this time, we take you to Washington for a special broadcast on the national emergency. The Secretary of the Interior.
Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts the country, nor the concern of your government in protecting the lives and property of its people. However, I wish to impress upon you, private citizens and public officials, all of you, the urgent need of calm and resourceful action. Fortunately, this formidable enemy is still confined to a comparatively small area, and we may place our faith in the military forces to keep them there. In the meantime, placing our faith in God, we must continue the performance of our duties, each and every one of us, so that we may confront this destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, and consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this earth. I thank you.
You have just heard the Secretary of the Interior speaking from Washington. Bulletins too numerous to read are piling up in the studio here. We're informed that the central portion of New Jersey is blacked out from radio communication due to the effect of the heat ray upon power lines and electrical equipment. Here's a special bulletin in New York. Cables have been received from English, French, and German scientific bodies offering assistance. Astronomers report continued gas outbursts at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The majority voiced the opinion that the enemy will be reinforced by additional rocket machines. There have been several attempts made to locate Professor Pearson of Princeton, who has observed Martians at close range. It is feared he was lost in the recent battle. Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report 3 Martian machines visible above treetops, moving north toward Somerville with population fleeing ahead of them. The heat ray is not in use, although advancing at express train speed. Invaders pick their way carefully. They seem to be making a conscious effort to avoid destruction of cities and countryside. However, they stop to uproot power lines, bridges, and railroad tracks. Their apparent objective is to crush resistance, paralyze communication, and disorganize human society. Here is a bulletin from Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Coon hunters have stumbled on a second cylinder similar to the first. embedded in the great swamp 20 miles south of Morristown. Army field pieces are proceeding from Newark to blow up the second invading unit before the cylinder can be opened and the fighting machine rigged. They're taking up a position in the foothills of Watchung Mountains. Another bulletin from Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report enemy machines, now 3 in number, increasing speed northward, kicking over houses and trees in their evident haste to form a conjunction with their allies south of Morristown. Machines also sighted by telephone operator east of Middlesex within 10 miles of Plainfield. Here's a bulletin from Winston-Field, Long Island. A fleet of Army bombers carrying heavy explosives flying north in pursuit of enemy. Scouting planes act as guides. They keep the speeding enemy in sight. Just a moment, please, ladies and gentlemen. We've run special wires to the artillery line in adjacent villages to give you direct reports from the zone of the advancing enemy. First, we take you to the battery of the 22nd Field Artillery, located in the Watchung Mountains.
Range 32 meters. 32 meters. Projection 39 degrees.
39 degrees.
Fire. 140 yards to your access. Ship range 31 meters.
31 meters.
Projection 37 degrees.
37 degrees.
Fire. Hit that. Got the tripod of one of them. They're stopped. The others are trying to repair it.
Quick, get the range.
Ship's 30 meters.
30 meters.
Projection 27 degrees.
27 degrees.
Fire. Can see the shell lamp, sir. Letting off a smoke.
What is it?
Black smoke, sir. Moving this way. Lying close to the ground. Moving fast.
Put on gas mask.
Get ready to fire. Ship to 24 meters.
24 meters.
Projection 24 degrees.
24 degrees.
Fire. There can't see, sir. Smoke's coming nearer. Get the range. 50 meters. 23 meters. 23 meters. Projection 22 degrees. 22 degrees.
Army bombing plane B-843 off Bayonne, New Jersey. Lieutenant Bolt, commanding 8 bombers, reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. This is Bolt reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. Enemy tripod machines now in sight. Reinforced by 3 machines from the Morristown cylinder, 6 altogether. 1 machine partially crippled. Believed hit by shell from Army gun in Watchung Mountains. Guns now appear silent. A heavy black fog hanging close to the earth of extreme density, nature unknown. No sign of heat ray. Enemy now turns east, crossing Passaic River into the Jersey marshes. Another straddles the Pulaski Skyway. Evident objective is New York City. They're pushing down a high-tension power station. Machines are close together now, and we're ready to attack. Planes circling, ready to strike. 1,000 yards, and we'll be over the first. 800 yards. 600. 400. 200. There they go. Giant arm raised. Green flash. Spraying us with flame. 2,000 feet. Engines are giving out. No chance to release bombs. Only one thing left. Drop on them, plane and all. We're diving on the first one. Now the engine's gone. 8. This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. Come in, please.
This is Langham Field. Go ahead.
8 Army bombers in engagement with enemy tripod machines over Jersey Flats. Engines incapacitated by heat ray. All crashed. 1 enemy machine destroyed. Enemy now discharging heavy black smoke in direction of...
This is Newark, New Jersey. This is Newark, New Jersey. Warning. Poisonous black smoke pouring in from Jersey marshes. Reaches South Street. Gas masks useless. Urge population to move into open spaces. Automobiles use routes 7, 23, 24. Avoid congested areas. Smoke now spreading over Raymond Boulevard.
2X2L calling CQ, 2X2L calling CQ, 2X2L calling 8X3R. Come in, please.
This is 8X3R coming back at 2X2L.
How's reception? How's reception? Cake, please. Where are you, 8 extra? Yeah. What's the matter? Where are you?
I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building. I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building, New York City. The bells you hear are ringing to warn the people to evacuate the city as the Martians approach. Estimated in the last 2 hours, 3 million people have moved out along the roads to the north. Hutchison River Parkway is still kept open for motor traffic. Avoid bridges to Long Island, hopelessly jammed. All communication with Jersey Shore closed 10 minutes ago. No more defenses. Our army is wiped out. Artillery, Air Force, everything wiped out. This may be the last broadcast. We'll stay here to the end. People are holding service here below us in the cathedral. Now I look down the harbor, all manner of boats, overloaded with fleeing population pulling out from docks. Streets are all jammed. Noise and crowds like New Year's Eve in city. Wait a minute, the enemy is now in sight above the Palisades. Five great machines. First one is crossing the river. I can see it from here, wading the Hudson like a man wading through a brook. A bulletin is handed me. Martian cylinders are falling all over the country. One outside of Buffalo, one in Chicago, St. Louis. Seem to be time and space. Now the first machine reaches the shore. He stands watching, looking over the city. Steel cowlish head is even with the skyscrapers. He waits for the others. They rise like a line of new towers on the city's west side. Now they're lifting their metal hands. This is the end now. Smoke comes out, black smoke drifting over the city. People in the streets see it now. They're running toward the East River, thousands of them, dropping in like rats. Now the smoke's spreading faster. It's reached Times Square. People are trying to run away from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies. Now the smoke's crossing 6th Avenue. 5th Avenue. 100 yards away. It's 50 feet.
Calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ, New York. Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone? 2X2L.
You are listening to a CBS presentation of Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in an original dramatization of The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. The performance will continue after a brief intermission. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, starring Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air.
As I set down these notes on paper, I'm obsessed by the thought that I may be the last living man on Earth. I've been hiding in this empty house near Grover's Mill, a small island of daylight cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened before the arrival of these monstrous creatures in the world now seems part of another life. A life that has no continuity with the present. Furtive existence of the lonely derelict who pencils these words on the back of some astronomical notes bearing the signature of Richard Pearson. I look down at my blackened hand, and I try to connect them with a professor who lives at Princeton and who, on the night of October 20th, glimpsed through his telescope an orange splash of light on a distant planet. My wife, my colleagues, my students, my books, my observatory, my world. Where are they? Did they ever exist? Am I Richard Pearson? What day is it? Do days exist without calendars? Does time pass when there are no human hands left to wind the clocks? In writing down my daily life, I tell myself I shall preserve human history between the dark covers of this little book that was meant to record the movements of the stars. But to write, I must live, and to live, I must eat. Find molded bread in the kitchen and an orange not too spoiled to swallow. Keep watch at the window. Time to time, I catch sight of a Martian above the black smoke. The smoke still holds the house in its black coil, but at length there's a hissing sound, and suddenly I see a Martian mounted on his machine, spraying the air with a jet of steam as if to dissipate the smoke. I watch in a corner as his huge metal legs nearly brush against the house. Exhausted by terror, I fall asleep. Morning. Morning. Sun streams in the window. The black cloud of gas is lifted, and the scorched meadows to the north look as though a black snowstorm had passed over them. I venture from the house. I make my way to a road, no traffic. Here and there, a wrecked car, baggage overturned, a blackened skeleton. Push on north. For some reason, I feel safer trailing these monsters than running away from them. And I keep a careful watch. I've seen the Martians feed. Should one of their machines appear over the top of trees, I'm ready to fling myself flat on the earth. Come to a chestnut tree. October. Chestnuts are ripe. Fill my pockets. I must keep alive. 2 days I wander in a vague northerly direction through a desolate world. Finally, I notice a living creature. A small red squirrel in a beech tree. I stare at him and wonder. He stares back at me. I believe at that moment the animal and I shared the same emotion. The joy of finding another living being. Push on north. I find dead cows in a brackish field, and beyond the charred ruins of a dairy and a silo, remain standing guard over the wasteland like a lighthouse. Deserted by the sea. Astride the silo perches a weathercock. The arrow points north. North. Next day, I come to a city. City vaguely familiar in its contours, yet its buildings strangely dwarfed and leveled off as if a giant had sliced off its highest towers with a capricious sweep of his hand. Reached the outskirts, I found Newark. Newark, undemolished but humbled by some whim of the advancing Martians. Presently, with an odd feeling of being watched, I caught sight of something crouching in a doorway. I made a step towards it. It rose up and became a man. A man armed with a large knife.
Stop! Where do you come from?
I come from many places. A long time ago, from Princeton.
Princeton, huh? That's near Grover's Mill.
Yes.
Grover's Mill. There's no food here. This is my country. All this end of town down the river. There's only food for one. Which way are you going?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
Hey, what was that? Did you hear something just then?
No. Only a bird. A live bird.
You get to know that birds have shadows these days. Say, we're in the open here. Let's crawl in this doorway here and talk.
Have you seen any Martians?
No. They're going over to New York. Night, the sky's alive with their lights, just as if people were still living in it. By daylight, you can't see them. 5 days ago, a couple of them carried something big across the flats from the airport. I think they're learning how to fly.
Fly?
Yeah, fly.
Well, it's all over with humanity. Stranger, there's still you and I. 2 of us left.
Yeah. They got themselves in solid. They wrecked the greatest country in the world. Those green stars, they're probably falling somewhere every night. They've only lost 1 machine. There isn't anything to do. We're done. We're licked.
Where were you? You're in a uniform.
Yeah, what's left of it. I was in the militia. National Guard. That's good. There wasn't any war. Any more than there's war between men and ants.
Yes, but we're eatable ants. I found that out. What'll they do to us?
I thought it all out. Right now, we're caught as we're wanted. The Martian only has to go a few miles to get a crowd on the run. But they won't keep on doing that. They'll begin catching us systematic, like keeping the best and storing us in cages and things. They haven't begun on us yet.
Not begun?
Not begun. All that's happened so far is because we don't have sense enough to keep quiet. Bothering them with guns and such stuff and losing our heads and rushing off in crowds. Now, instead of our rushing around blind, we got to fix ourselves up. Fix ourselves up according to the way things are now. Cities, nations, civilization, progress.
Yes, but if that's so, what is there to live for?
Well, there won't be any more concerts for 1,000,000 years or so, and no nice little dinners at restaurants. If it's amusement you're after, I guess the game's up.
What is there left?
Life, that's what. I want to live. Yeah, and so do you. We're not going to be exterminated. And I don't mean to be caught either. Tamed and fattened and bred like an ox.
What are you going to do?
I'm going on. Right under their feet. I got a plan. We men, as men, we're finished. We don't know enough. We got to learn plenty before we get a chance. We've got to live and keep free while we learn, see? I've thought it all out, see?
Well, tell me the rest.
Well, it isn't all of us that are made for wild beasts. That's what it got to. That's what it got to be. That's why I watched you. Watched you. All those little office workers that used to live in these houses. They be no good. They haven't any stuff in them. They used to run off to work. I've seen hundreds of them running to catch their commuter's train in the morning, afraid they'd get canned if they didn't. Running back at night, afraid they wouldn't be in time for dinner. Lives insured and a little invested in case of accidents. Yeah, and on Sundays, worried about the hereafter. Well, the Martians, they'll be a godsend for those guys. Nice, roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. Yeah, after a week or so of chasing around the fields on empty stomachs, they'll come and be glad to be caught.
You've thought it all out, haven't you?
Sure, you bet I have. That isn't all. These Martians are going to make pets of some of them. Train them to do tricks. Who knows, get sentimental over the pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. Yeah, and some maybe, they'll train to hunt us.
Oh, no, it's impossible. Human
Yes, they will. There's men who do it gladly. If one of them ever comes after me, by...
In the meantime, you and I and others like us, where are we to live when the Martians own the Earth?
I got it all figured out. Live underground. I've been thinking about the sewers. Under New York, there are miles and miles of them. The main ones, they're big enough for anybody. And there's cellars, vaults, underground storerooms, railway tunnels, subways. You begin to see, huh? We got a bunch of strong men together. No weakness. That rubbish, out.
As you meant me to go.
All right. Give you a chance, didn't I?
Won't quarrel about that. Go on.
Well, we got to make safe places for us to stay in, see? Get all the books we can. Science books. That's where men like you come in, see? We raid the museums. We'll even spy on the Martians. May not be so much we have to learn before... Listen, just imagine this. 4 or 5 of their own fighting machines suddenly start off. Heat rays right and left. Not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them, see? But men. Men who've learned the way how. May even in our time. Gee, imagine having one of them lovely things with a heat ray wide and free. We'd turn it on Martians. We'd turn it on men. We'd bring everybody down on their knees.
That's your plan.
Yeah. You, me, a few more of us. We'd own the world.
I see.
Hey. Hey, what's the matter? Where are you going?
Not to your world. Bye, stranger. Well, after parting with the artilleryman, I came at last to the Holland Tunnel, entered that silent tube. Anxious to know the fate of the great city on the other side of the Hudson. Cautiously, I came out of the tunnel and made my way up Canal Street. Reached 14th Street, and there again were black powder and several bodies and an evil, ominous smell from the gratings of the cellars of some of the houses. I wandered up through the 30s and 40s, stood alone on Times Square, caught sight of a lean dog running down 7th Avenue with a piece of dark brown meat in his jaws and a pack of starving mongrels at his heels. Made a wide circle around me as though he feared I might prove a fresh competitor. Walked up Broadway in the direction of that strange powder, past silent shop windows, displaying their mute wares to empty sidewalks. Past the Capitol Theater, silent, dark. Past a shooting gallery where a row of empty guns faced an arrested line of wooden ducks. Near Columbus Circle, I noticed models of 1939 motor cars in the showrooms facing empty streets. Over the top of the General Motors building, I watched a flock of black birds circling in the sky. Hurried on. Suddenly, I caught sight of the hood of a Martian machine, standing somewhere in Central Park, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. An insane idea. I rushed recklessly across Columbus Circle and into the park. I climbed a small hill above the pond at 60th Street, and from there I could see standing in a silent row along the mall 19 of those great metal titans, their cowls empty, their steel arms hanging listlessly by their sides. I looked in vain for the monsters that inhabit those machines. Suddenly, my eyes were attracted to the immense flock of black birds that hovered directly below me. They circled to the ground. And there before my eyes, stark and silent, lay the Martians with the hungry birds pecking and tearing brown shreds of flesh from their dead bodies. Later, when their bodies were examined in laboratories, it was found that they were killed by the putrefactive and disease bacteria against which their systems were unprepared. Slain, after all, man's defenses had failed by the humblest thing that God, as wisdom, has put upon this earth. Before the cylinder fell, there was a general persuasion that through all the deep of space, no life existed beyond the petty surface of our minute sphere. Now we see further. Dim and wonderful is the vision I've conjured up in my mind of life spreading slowly from this little seedbed of the solar system throughout the inanimate vastnesses of sidereal space. But a remote dream, maybe. Maybe that the destruction of the Martians is only a reprieve to them and not to us. The future ordained, perhaps. Strange it now seems to sit in my peaceful study in Princeton, writing down this last chapter of the record, begun at a deserted farm in Grover's Mill. Strange to watch children playing in the streets. Strange to see young people strolling on the green where the new spring grass heals the last black scars of a bruised earth. Strange to watch the sightseers enter the museum where the disassembled parts of a Martian machine are kept on public view. Strange when I recall the time when I first saw it. Bright and clean-cut, hard and silent under the dawn of that last great day.
This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen. Out of character, to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as the holiday offering it was intended to be. The Mercury Theater's own radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo. Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and steal all your garden gates by tomorrow night, so we did the best next thing. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it, and that both institutions are still open for business. So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch, and if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian, it's Halloween.
Tonight, the Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations coast to coast has brought you The War of the World by H.G. Wells, the 17th in its weekly series of dramatic broadcasts featuring Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air. Next week, we present a dramatization of 3 famous short stories. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And there you have it, boys and girls. War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, brought to you by CBS and the Mercury Theater on the air, direct from Orson Welles himself. I love it. It's great. I like my costume. What do you think, Ace? He's laying down on the job again. Sheesh. I'm telling you, dude. Get with it. All right, next up, we are going to take a trip in the video time machine, Halloween style. All right? Isn't that cool? You know what? Let's just get started with it because it is a great one, and it is about 38 minutes long, right? So, yeah. Let's get on with it. You guys are going to love this. Let me go ahead and... All right, people, here we go. Yeah. In these troubling days of a modern world gone mad, one man has the technology to make a difference in time and space.
people who brought you Halloween. More of the night he came home. Halloween 2.
There was nothing within him, neither conscience nor reason, that wasn't even remotely human.
Don't miss the all-new Halloween 2. More of the night he came home. Halloween 2, rated R.
Now showing East End cinemas from Thursday, 10 Village Drive-Ins.
Something big going on over at the bakery.
Yep. Folks still talk about the day the nuts came to town. The day Hostess made the first nutty ho-hos. Peanuts packed in devil's food cake, creamy filling, chocolatey frosting. It's not just a snack cake.
That's a lot of nuts.
New nutty ho-hos cakes. They really went nuts with the nuts.
Yep.
Tacos to go from Taco Bell. In a 10-pack to go. Wherever you've got a few hungry friends.
A wrap-up on the Camp Hill prison riot at 6 o'clock.
I'm getting rid of an old habit. That's it. No more messing with shampoo and conditioner. I just want to wash my hair and go. So I got Per Plus. It's complete shampoo plus complete conditioner in one bottle. Per Plus leaves my hair clean, conditioned, and looking terrific. Makes you wonder why anyone would bother with shampoo and conditioner. With Per Plus, I just wash and go.
Pert Plus cleans and conditions in just one step.
When I'm busy and want a quick meal, I whip up omelets. I love them. And this week at Shop and Save, fresh grade A large eggs are only 69 cents a dozen. A New York-style treat, chocolate eclairs, a box of 4, $1.59. These are time savers. Budget gourmet assorted entrees, 2 for just $3. And White Rain hair care products from shampoo to hairspray, 99 cents.
Shop for the difference at Shop and Save.
Every Sunday, sit back and enjoy the latest edition of WTAE-TV's Sunday Lifestyles. First, find out how to saw, paint, plaster, and prune, and never lift a finger on Better Your Home. Catch the latest news and reviews from Hollywood on At the Movies. Get away from it all and journey to places you've only dreamed of on Travel and Adventure. And this man will do anything to keep you from getting ripped off. Fight back with David Horowitz. WTAE-TV's Sunday Lifestyles, Sunday afternoon at 4 on WTAE.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a warning. To protect theater owners and the makers of this horror vision film, viewers with nerve or heart conditions are advised to cover their eyes and ears whenever this object appears on the screen or whenever this sound is heard. Thank you.
On September 18th, 1972, the Hoffman House was closed due to several mysterious deaths. The house was reopened as a boarding house. And the body count continues. I wonder who will be next to check out of the boarding house. Boarding house. Where the rent won't kill you, but something else will. Boarding house. In Horror Vision.
Coming soon. Jolting tales of horror. Creep Show. From the author of Carrie, The Shining, and Cujo. And the creator of Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. You'll scream at ghastly ghouls. Cringe at weird kids. And shiver at the doings of evil doctors.
This is going to be extremely painful, Mr. Verrill.
Creep Show will grab you, grow on you, and give you the creeps.
No, this is going to be an entirely new experience.
Creep Show, the most fun you'll ever have being scared.
We switch you to the state capitol, where His Excellency, the Governor, is speaking from the Executive Mansion.
Further, I have, in conjunction with the federal government, declared this state to be a disaster area.
I was sent to keep you here until they come.
To kill me.
Vampires, alive among the lifeless, that make the night hideous with their inhuman cravings. If they are not destroyed in the flaming pits of hellfire, or staked to the ground in the light of the sun, will the unbelievable become real? A world of inanimate zombies by day, irresistible, horrifying attackers by night. Can a zombie woman's hunger for love repopulate the earth?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Paul Lind. Well, somebody had to be. Well, here I am again. ABC's answer to Trick or Treat. It's been a year since my last special. Was it something I said? As you know, there's a real scary holiday coming up. Election Day. So to get you warmed up for it, we're gonna do a Halloween show. Halloween's my favorite holiday. What other night can a cute little kid go out and carve up a pumpkin and my sports car at the same time? See, if you ever looked into a trick-or-treat bag, one peek's enough to rot your teeth. I always give a prize for the funniest costume. Last year I said that the prize goes to the first one that rings my bell. It was my Avon lady. So I gave her a box of ding-dongs. You know, though they got no sense of humor, she smeared my windows with soap on a rope. The next kid just wanted to use my bathroom. I said, trick or treat. And he said, now or never. When I was young, Halloween was different. There was something about me that stood out. In fact, everything stood out. I was fat. My brothers and sisters used to dress up in nice little Halloween costumes from the 5 and dime. Mom would hand me the shower curtain. And it didn't fit. So she let it out, and I went as the Hindenburg. It was a disaster. So you wonder why I love Halloween. When you're shaped like a pumpkin, it was easy to love Halloween. And I do love Halloween. In fact, this year I made a resolution. I promised my housekeeper, I said, Margaret.
I'm gonna love Halloween this year. Right, Mr. Lynn?
Right. I'm gonna be nice to every kid who comes to that door.
Sweet as a bowl of cherries.
Well, it's better than being the pits. I'm crazy about the holidays. I love all the gifts and toys. I love all the looks of wonderment from little girls and boys. I love Easter eggs and Valentines, the fireworks and Halloween. I love New Year's Eve and Jingle Bells. There's no doubt about it's nothing without those. Kids, I am simply wild for these kids today. The little darling kids. I have great respect for the things they say. I understand them, kids, in those goofy get-ups they wear at Halloween. I dig most those ghouls and ghosts and goblins. Precious little pumpkins, kids. When they ask for goodies, they're awful sweet. I give them yummies, kids, with their apple bobbin and trick or treat. Come on and ring my doorbell, you won't be sent away. I'm just crazy for kids today. I gotta shoot getting here soon. Let's see, I got the candy, the gum, the walnuts. Oh, there's the doorbell.
Trick or treat, 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 trick or treat.
Kids.
Open your windows and break in your flower pots.
Kids.
We empty the trash and on your lawn. Ha ha ha.
Kids.
We're hazing you and praising you.
Kids.
We're mugging you and bugging you.
Kids.
We're vexing you and vexing you. Letting the air right out your tires.
Kids.
We're going to scare you and haunt you on Halloween.
Kids.
But after all, what does Halloween mean?
Go to a cemetery, that's where you ought to play. What's the matter with kids today?
Kids, you must try to understand kids today.
They don't get away from me, I'm gonna sick Bugsy Malone on them.
Kids, they don't mean the things that they do or say.
You mean you listen?
Trick or treat, trick or treat, trick or treat, trick or treat.
Kids, well, it's just no wonder they burn your lawns. Kids, with their silly sweat hogs and funky fawns. There's too much Alice Cooper, not enough Alice Faye. Keep your lizards and rats, keep your vampire bats. What's the matter with kids today? I tell you, I've had it with you little monsters. Who's responsible for this? Cute Donnie Marie, real cute.
in the dead of night, when the moon is high, and the ill winds blow, and the banshees cry, and the moonlight casts an unearthly glow. Arise, my love, with tales of woe.
Good evening.
Please. No, not that. Chocolate.
Let me breathe.
No.
Almost everyone enjoys a good joke or riddle.
What's your trick?
What you guys eat for breakfast?
What?
Those toasties. What's a wiener when you take out its inside?
What?
A Halloweener. Where does Dracula keep his money?
Where?
In a blood bank.
Here, have some candy.
Betty Boop, the new little girl that Max Fleischer made.
Well, if he can make her, I can go over and say hello.
Say, Eddie,
Yeah?
be careful that you don't melt the wax.
Yes, sir. And you know, ever since I saw you in the screen cartoon, I've often wanted to see your garter and see if it was real diamonds.
Rex, you go away, you big bad man. Ooh.
Now you know you don't mean that. You know, Betty, honey. I like to hear you sing a song.
Hear me sing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll sing if you play piano for me.
You will?
Uh-huh.
All right, you boop and I'll play.
Okay. Can you play My Silent Love?
If you call me that, darling, I'll play anything.
Okay. I reach for you like I reach for a star, worshipping you from afar, living with my silent love. I'm like a flame dying out in the rain, only the ashes remain, molded like my silent love. How I long to tell all the things I have planned. Still, it's wrong to tell. I do not understand. You
Spook you last, spook.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horathon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up tonight's Halloween special with Video Time Machine. I want you all to come see me tomorrow morning. It's going to be counting down to the last of the last shows till I go out on hiatus. All right, so be sure to join me, and be sure to join me tomorrow night for the very last nighttime nonsense and nostalgia. Thank you for joining me this evening. I hope you enjoyed my Halloween special. I will be back. I'll be back. Do you like my costume? Huh? Adios, people. Remember to stay cool out there. All right, people, you know what to do. Be kind, be nice, make peace, not bullshit. Love each other, all right? Most especially stay weird, because if you ain't weird, ain't nobody gonna be. All right, people, love you. Adios. I'll see you in the morning. Bye now.